All right. Well, welcome to the Way of Mastery. I wasn't sure if we were going to even have a class tonight because of the weather and everything. So I appreciate that some of y'all even showed up tonight, because it's the kind of thing that sometimes people decide that's a good opportunity not to get out. So thank you for coming out. If you had the Way of Mastery book, I don't know if any of you all got it or not, but it's on page, I'm going to be on page 45, which is the paragraph that starts out, "Yet I say unto you." And the only guidelines in the class is you don't have to believe it. You don't have to believe it. You don't have to accept it. You don't have to welcome it. Some of it might be hard to believe. Some of it might be startling. But if we use it, we'll see that it works. And so it's a metaphysical spirituality. So that means it's basically coming from the perception that we create our reality. And that we create our reality through our thoughts and our feelings and our emotions and our beliefs. And we're not a victim of anything that's going on, anything that's happening to us. And then showing us how to see it in such a way and approach our experience in such a way that we let ourselves really have the love and the peace and the abundance and the joy and the kind of relationships that we want to have in our lives. So I'm going to cover do it like we usually do. I'm going to cover some of the material for about 10 minutes. Then we'll throw it open for discussion and questions. And then I'm going to keep going through it until we hear as much of it as we possibly can. And I always invite people to kind of look for, I don't believe there's any such thing as an accident. So I don't believe that any of us are here tonight by accident. So it's a possibility that there's something in the material that might be a message for you. And so be on the lookout for the message for you more so than being on the lookout for what you can disagree with. Our mind usually looks for, you can say 10 things that make sense to me, but I'm going to focus all my attention on what you might have said that I don't agree with or that I don't understand. And since there's no need for you to believe it anyway, if you don't want to, then it's not about that. It's really about, well, what is it that I heard that inspired me or that was like an aha? That might be the thing I need to recognize right now. That's what I would invite you to look for, much more than what did I say that's different from what you believe. Because there's many different ways to look at everything as there are people in the room. So it's not going to be in a situation where you with anybody that you agree with everything that you hear and everything that they're saying. So it's not really about that. And the section that we're on right now, which I think is really cool, is the section in the Way of Mastery that's called Desire is Everything. So it's really about getting in touch with the power of desire. And the paragraph that I'm sharing from is the one that starts out with, "Yet I say unto you." Okay, you got that one? All right. "Yet I say unto you, would you exist if God had feared the desire to create and extend love by forming you? Would you exist if that which created you were afraid to create you? At the same time, you were given infinite freedom of choice." So something loved us enough to create us, and also something loved us enough to give us infinite freedom of choice. So without desire, and then again it says, look around you. Without desire, not only would you see nothing, but there would be nothing to do, the seeing. So if something had not desired you into existence, then you would not only be seeing nothing, there would be nothing to do the seeing. You wouldn't even be here to do the seeing. So it says everything is the effect of desire. Everything is the effect of desire. Everything is the effect of desire. The challenge is that we have a tendency to believe that we are aware of all our desires or that we are conscious of our desires. And so what's happening to you that you might not understand why it's happening to you is the result of desires that you have that you don't know that you have. So there are conscious desires and there are subconscious desires. There are conscious desires and there are unconscious desires. The outer world is a reflection of unconscious desire. And your conscious desire is that which you think you desire, what you think you're conscious of that you desire. So come then to see that desire isn't evil. It's not something to be feared. Desire isn't something to be mastered. And mastery is not control. So when you say you're going to master something, you're not saying I'm trying to get to the point that I can control it. Control and the need to control is really the effect of the energy of fear. So the need to control is really coming from fear. The need to control a partner, coming from fear. The need to control my coworkers and friends, coming from fear. The desire to control is coming from fear and not love. So, mastery of desire. Okay, mastery of desire, it says, comes when you recognize that you are safe to feel whatever wave of desire might come up through your consciousness. Because you decide whether or not you will act on it and whether you will bring it into the field of manifestation. So I shouldn't be afraid of any of my desires. I should be willing to let all of my desires come up to my consciousness, because just because a desire comes up doesn't mean I have to act on it. I'm the one that can decide to act on the desire and not act on the desire. So there's no need for me to repress the desire itself. I can let that desire come up, and then I can decide what I want to do with it. And that means whether or not I'm going to act on it, which means whether or not I'm going to bring it into manifestation. So the desire comes up, I decide whether I'm going to act on it, I decide whether I'm going to bring it into manifestation. But we should stop trying to repress our desires and not acknowledging our desires, or feeling like it's okay to have any desire. I might come up with the desire like I want to hit somebody upside the head because I'm mad about something. But I have to also decide whether I'm going to act on that desire or whether I want to bring that desire into manifestation. So I don't have to deny it, because sometimes on the spiritual path, people think being spiritual means being nice. And being nice means I pretend I don't have any feelings that are less than loving. So then I go deep into repression. I stuff my anger, I stuff my fear, I stuff my guilt, pretend I don't have any of it. Then I make myself sick. Then I have lack. Then I have relationships that are a deep call for God. Okay, so all of the things that's coming, all the things that's happening that I don't have peace about, many of those things are things that are coming from repressed anger, repressed desire, and losing sight with who I really am as a spiritual being. So the power of choice is the one power that can never be taken away from you. The power of choice is the one power that can never be taken away from you. You already have perfect mastery of it, because nothing you ever experience, now check this out, nothing, not a thing, we're being told, that you ever experience comes to you without your decision to allow it into the field of manifestation. Nothing you ever experience comes to you without your decision to allow it into the field of manifestation. So desire is something that wells up from the depth beyond yourself. And desire is something that wells up from the depth beyond yourself that can be looked at with perfect innocence and with the wonder of a child. Oh, okay, I'm having this desire right now. Oh, okay, all right. I'm having this desire right now. So the very act of turning to allow and welcome the desire is not something that will sidetrack you from the path of awakening, but it will take you vertically into the heart of God or the heart of love. So I'll say it again. The very act of turning to allow and welcome desire will not sidetrack you. Actually, it will take you vertically into the heart of love, which is into the heart of God. So if you are ever to create as the Creator creates, you will need to heal your conflicted perceptions about desire. What does that mean? You will need to transcend the energy of fear about your own desires. So in order to get rid of any conflicted perception, I need to let go of my conflicted desires and decide that I only have one desire. And my one desire is the desire for love, the desire for connection, the desire for awakening, the desire for unity. So if a person recognizes that everything that they experience is coming from the energy of desire, then potentially there's not anything that you truly desire in your heart that you could not manifest, that you could not have in your perception, because that's what's already happening. Okay, but most people don't know that, so they think they're a victim of everything that's happening to them, and they constantly try to get everything and everybody outside of them to change so that they can be happy. It never works. They get frustrated all the time, because that's not what's going to change whatever is going on in your life. Your happiness is never going to come from trying to get everyone else to speak or act differently in order for you to be happy. It's going to come from me getting in touch with the energy of desire. So any thoughts, any questions about what I've covered so far, or what I shared from the way of mastery so far? So based on what we just heard, whatever you're experiencing in your life right now, even the things you love as well as the things that you don't love, at some level it's coming from the desires that I'm allowing to manifest within me and in my life. Yeah, Chris?
So when you were talking about the unconscious desires, could that work both, for lack of better terms, could that work both negatively or positively?
Absolutely.
Say, like, you're really desiring to let go of...
There's some chairs in the room right behind you in case anybody needs a chair. Okay.
Say you're really desiring to let go of stuff, and in your outside world, it seems like things are falling apart, but then maybe it's because of your desire that you want to, like, really pursue the truth and be the truth. And so what seems to be falling apart is stuff that is being let go of, so that you can live that truth, so you can be that truth.
Yeah, that's what I believe. Is that when I really say I want love, everything that's not love is going to come up to have to be released and to fall away. Whenever I say I want the truth, whatever's not truth, I'm going to find out what that is. And that's why sometimes when people get on the spiritual path, they get shocked because they think that because they're on the spiritual path now, it means that everything is going to go great. Yeah, it does, after you have an opportunity to get all of the stuff that needs to be released from you. And since we identify with most of that stuff, then it sometimes causes us to go through disorientation and confusion and fear. You know, it's like a person being in love with somebody that doesn't love them. And then they say, I really want to know what love is. I really want to experience love. Well, then by definition, the person that doesn't love them is going to be someone that's going to fade out of their experience for one reason or another. But if they're attached to that, then they think that their whole world is falling apart. You know, so what happens is when you want to go for what's real, what's unreal reveals itself, but then you sometimes recognize that most of the things that you're focused on are unreal. And so then it looks like you're losing, but you're not losing. It's just that you're recognizing that it's not valuable. So yes, that'd be the short answer that'd be the long, short answer to what you just said. Yeah.
And so then that's like a sign not to get discouraged, but to be like, oh yeah, like my prayers are being answered.
That's what I think. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. If I'm really changing, then I have to see change. If I'm really doing it differently, then something should be reflecting it back to me. And that's how I can tell the difference between saying I'm changing and I'm actually changing. Because my perceptions would change. What I would experience would change. How I would see things would change. But in the meantime, I'm going to go through that confusion and disorientation between the old thing leaving and the new thing coming. Because there's always that in-between state. And that's the state that most people get the most afraid, and that's when they're most tempted to bail on their spiritual path. It's when they're actually starting to see results from it. Because new means different. And when I say I'm ready for something new, I'm really saying I'm ready for something different. But then something different starts coming, and I start freaking. But that's actually exactly what I just got through asking for. I'm ready for a new life. I'm ready for a new situation. I'm ready for a new relationship. And then all of a sudden your relationship starts changing, your job changes, everything in your life. You go, what the hell's going on? Well, you're getting what you asked for. You're getting the shift that you need to have the new life that you say that you want. Because your desire is different. And if you wholly desire something, you create it faster. Because the holy desire is to create according to this. So if I'm wholly desiring something, I don't have any opposing beliefs to it. If I don't have any opposing beliefs, there's nothing to stop me from getting the manifestation of it. That's why it was said that you will need to heal your conflicted perceptions about desire. Your desires are good. Desire isn't bad. Sometimes on the spiritual path, people say, well, you're not supposed to have any desires. Well, that's all right if you're a person that doesn't have any desires. But if you're a person that does have desires, then all of a sudden you're going to feel conflicted. Like you're repressing your desire. And what we're being told is actually desire is really the fuel that gets us moving. If I didn't have desire, I wouldn't be sitting here. I had to have the desire to get in my car, to come out in the weather, to put on my clothes, to come over here and sit and set this up and talk to everybody tonight. So if I didn't have any desire, I wouldn't be here. And would you not say that the same thing is true for you too? So everything comes out of desire. And when you have no desire, it may be a possibility that you're not doing something that you can get your heart into right now, that you're not feeling inspired right now. So I'm looking for inspiration. I want to do what inspires me. No, I'm trying to get rid of all shouldas, gotters, oughters. That's what I'm working on. No shouldas. I should do this. I ought to do this. I gotta do this. I want to come from I want to do this. I desire to do this. I love to do this. I allow this.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? That's where you want to come from if you want to enjoy your life. Yeah. Anybody else? Any thoughts about what we talked about so far with desire?
Well, the word desire in the dictionary, if you look it up, the roots are heavenly body.
It's what?
Heavenly body. And I think we just read this, and I can't remember if it's this book or in the course, where it said, are you willing to go through fear to come to love?
Yeah. Well, the Course in Miracles says that also, I know. Yeah. Go through it to get to the love. Yeah. On the other side. As a matter of fact, I love the line where it says in the Course in Miracles that the attraction of the thing beyond the obstacle will pull you through the obstacle.
Right.
And I always think about that. You know, my desire for something should pull me past whatever it is that I think is coming up to stop me from having it.
Higher will.
Yeah.
That's what it means by higher will.
Yeah. So I try to go after what I want by making sure that what I want is what I truly desire. And then I first create it within myself, because it's really about being what you want to have, because you draw to you what you are. So anything I want to experience in another person or another relationship, anything, I create it in myself. And then what I notice a lot in communicating with people is that there are people who want people who totally have characteristics that they don't have. You know, like I'm the person that's afraid of love that wants the most loving person in the world. I'm the quietest person in the world who wants the person that's most exciting. You know what I'm saying? So the truth is I need to be what I want to have. I need to be it myself to have it. And it's going to show up if you are it, because what's showing up already is what I am. It's not like it's not like it's going to start when I start doing that. It's already doing that. But I might be in denial about myself. And so I don't recognize I'm drawing the same kind of person to me over and over again, because there's something inside myself I need to take a look at that I'm not willing to take a look at. So they keep showing up so that I can have another opportunity to ask, what is it within me that I need to take a look at that's creating this situation over and over and over again? Yeah. What do I desire? What do I really desire? Anybody else?
Well, the scariest words I ever spoke was, I want to grow as fast as possible.
Oh, you didn't say that, did you?
Oh, yes, I did.
Oh, my God.
Okay, then.
All right. Hang on to your seat when you said stuff like that.
Well, I said that some time ago, so.
And it's been great.
But every time I say it and repeat it again, it's like...
She's laughing.
Well, there's a line in there where he says in the end you're going to say the truth is true. In the end you're going to go, damn, everything I've been studying, it really is the truth. You know, it's like, wow, this is really true. You know, it's not theoretical. It's really true. I really am loved. I really am lovable. I do deserve to be happy. I'm not alone. I am connected. I am infinite. Wow. I am the creator of my experience. I am responsible for what I'm feeling right now. No one's doing anything to me. I'm not the victim of anything. One of these days, that's what's going to roll off your lips. And then when that happens, that's the same as forgiveness. Because at the point that I'm not holding anybody else responsible for what I'm feeling, there's nothing to forgive anybody for, because there's nothing anybody's doing to me. So your grievances are in direct proportion to how much you're not assuming responsibility for your feelings. That's what grievances are. So wherever you have the most grievance is where you're not seeing that you're responsible for the way that you're feeling in that situation. I didn't say it didn't happen. I'm saying you're responsible for the way that you're feeling about it. And that's a difference. That's a difference, right? Your mama might have, it might have looked like somebody did something to you when you were a child, but right now you're the one that's giving it all the meaning that it has for you. So you're the one that's creating how you're feeling about it right now. And it's how you desire to feel about it. That's what you're feeling. It's how you desire to feel about it. Okay. So he says, there are many who call unto me and pray. There is not an hour in your time frame in which there are not many upon your plane, somewhere on your planet. Everybody familiar with the concept of channel books? Everybody clear about what a channel book is? Okay, it's a book that the person sees themselves as being a receiver of it more so than the one that's thinking it up, as if it's coming from another level of consciousness. So basically, the premise is that we are not alone, and that we have invisible teachers and invisible masters that are trying to bring us back to the awareness of who we really are, which takes us into our joy and takes us into our power. So it's like getting the chance to have someone who's on a higher level of consciousness and awareness give you some information that can save you time and help you out. It'd be a lot easier for me to learn how to fly if I have an experienced pilot. If I was willing to listen to the pilot, I could learn how to fly a lot faster. So I'm the kind of person that I don't want to reinvent the wheel. If there's an easier way for me to move toward my happiness, and I can be made aware of what it is within myself that's keeping me from having it, and I can listen to it, then that'd be the quickest way for me to get it. But learning how to do that surrender took a while. Because as an adult, I'm taught to be as autonomous and self-sufficient as possible, to come up with my own ideas about what everything is and how it works on my own. And in one of the books, the Invisible Teacher said, there's a tendency for us to not want to use answers we didn't make up. So if someone gives me an answer but I didn't think of it, even though it might work, I'd have a tendency not to want to use it because I didn't think it up. So if you would just objectively think about that for a minute, that's a pretty slow way to do it. Think about that for a minute, So what we're doing is we are availing ourselves of wisdom that's greater than our own. Then if you try it out, you'll see whether or not it works, and it actually does. So it says, there's not an hour in your time frame in which there are not many upon your plane, somewhere on your planet, who are praying to me and want their hearts to be filled with Christ, which is love. So don't let that terminology freak you out. It just means they want their hearts to be filled with true love from the true self. And yet at the very same time, they're scared to death of an energy that wants to move because they have been taught to fear and suppress desire. So as you pray, you will be filled with love, which is an energy that will make you want to move toward what you're asking for. But if you've been taught to fear and suppress your desire, then the desire, which is the answer that you've been praying for, is going to be the result of that new desire. You won't move toward the desire. And then it will look like your prayer hasn't been answered. You may feel all of a sudden inspired to do something totally radical from what you would normally do. But your fear stops you, but that desire is the answer to your prayer that's trying to move you in the direction of the thing that you really want. So desire is like the liquid of life that moves through the stem of the rose, right? It says, and allows the petals to radiate with glorious color. When you block the flow of desire, the petals cannot be nourished, and death begins to occur. Death of the heart, death of the soul, and lifelessness. So dead people are people who are blocking the flow of their own desire. People with no enthusiasm and no life and no excitement are people who are blocking the flow of their desire. So death comes from blocking the flow of your true desire. And again, now remember that I'm not saying you have to agree with me or believe any of this. What we're doing tonight is allowing ourselves to hear just another point of view, just another way to look at it, that you can buy or not buy, just like when you go through the grocery store. So if you keep that in mind, it will probably help keep us open to hearing the ideas. So if you walk down one of your city streets and truly look into the eyes of everyone you see, would you not recognize that death seems to have already made a home in the minds of many that are living? Death of dreams, death of hope, death of worthiness, death of playfulness, death of true power, death of union with their source and creator has already taken place. That's like a perfect description of a totally fearful person, right? This is everyone who reads these words has had this experience of seeing this in others. Say healing requires the willingness to feel desire, to see desire as whole, and to see desire as holy, which means see it as innocent, and see desire as beauty. Does that not mean that if you feel a desire, that it might not become twisted by the egoic patterns in your mind? Of course not. You can't have desires that you allow to be twisted by your egoic patterns. There is always the possibility that desire will be twisted to meet the needs of the egoic mind within you. But rest assured, if it does, who's done it? You. If I've taken my desire and twisted it with fear and guilt, who did that? He says, well, you. Always within you. You have known that desire is good, but you suppress desire. Those times when desire came forth, and you let desire become twisted, how do you let a desire become twisted? You twist it into serving the goals of your fear, the goals of your ego, the goals of the past. He says that you always knew perfectly well what you were doing because you were the decision maker. So if I get a desire and I don't love myself, if I get a desire and I feel guilt, then I'm going to twist that desire in such a way that it increases my fear. But I'm the one who decided to twist it. He says, so you've learned, therefore, to fear desire because that fear is the effect of fearing yourself, and that's what's crippling you. He says what's crippling us is we fear ourselves, and that we fear our desires. And he says that is what cuts off the creative flow. So what cuts off creative flow? Fear. There are many times I'll have desires and thoughts that come to me to express myself, and I watch myself go, oh no, I can't do that. If I actually talk that way and express, may run me out of town. You see what I'm saying? I'll get an idea and it'll be a creative flow, but I watch my own ego prejudge the result of me doing that desire, and then I find out that then I go ahead and undo it. And the truth is, then I twisted my desire into something that was egoic. Because my true desires are going to be a reflection of my individuality and my personal creativity and who I personally am. So those desires are probably going to be things that other people may not have the inclination to do exactly like I do it. And so if I need validation from everybody around me before I express my desire, then I'm going to block my own creative flow. And every time you get ready to change, always remember that three things are going to happen. People who need you to serve the role that you were serving before you changed, they're going to get someone else to fulfill that role. Okay? And then there are going to be some people that are going to be going through the change basically at the same time you are, so they're going to still continue to travel with you. And then when you change, there are going to be some people or circumstances that you might just have to consciously choose out of. And you end it and go, you know what? This used to serve me to be in this kind of relationship with you, but this no longer serves me. And I need to do it differently now. So to think that I'm going to change, so I need to understand that everybody's not going to go with me when I decide to change. Like if I were to be inspired to do my class in a very radically different way, then I should also be ready to have many people that come to my classes not come to my classes anymore. And have some people that go, wow, I love this change. And then some people that I'll be wanting to ask them not to come. Even though I wouldn't do it. But I would probably go, God, I hope they don't show up today. Because their total opposition to it being differently than how they think it should be brings a negative energy into the room. That's funny. Because I've actually had people wanted me to change how I teach because they didn't like it. Which is funny. When you think about it. I'm supposed to change everything I do because you don't like it, rather than you go, oh, okay, I don't like it, I don't think I'll choose to be here, and I'll go somewhere else. But that's how egoic our minds can be sometimes, is that we actually want everybody else to shift rather than for us to shift. So what am I saying? I'm saying when you get in touch with who you really are, you're going to probably have desires that you'll be tempted to suppress or repress because they're so different from anything you've ever felt before, that you'll be afraid of the loss that your ego will tell you experience if you truly act on that desire. But that desire could actually be the answer to your prayer about the change you want to have in your life, and that desire is trying to motivate you in the direction that would manifest it. But it's completely different from anything you've done in the past, so it might make you feel afraid. But there's a difference between having fear based on the fact that this is totally unknown to me, but I still want to go for it, and fear coming from the need to have approval from others. It's kind of a different kind of fear. Okay, so any thoughts and any questions about this before we go further? Yeah.
Could you give an example of a desire that has been twisted by the egoic mind in an everyday sort of way?
Okay, any desire that's been twisted by my egoic mind would be any desire that I have that's only about me. And not for the good of anybody else but me. It's all about me, my personal needs, my personal fantasies. I don't care about whether or not this desire is going to be good for both of us. It's about my ego being gratified.
Okay.
That would be the simplest way. And then you can fill that in terms of any kind of form you want to fill it in. But that would be a twisted desire. It's a desire that's not about the love and the extension of love and the benefit of all others, if at all possible. You would want to be inclusive for everyone's good.
Thank you.
That would be a good one. Yes.
Isn't that another should though?
What's
isn't
that?
that another should? You have a desire, say, to do a painting. And that painting you don't see really affecting other people necessarily. That's not your motivation. Your motivation is to express yourself. It's for you. It's for your own self-expression, your desire to create. So if I were to apply, well, is this serving other people? Is it good for the world? Is this a selfish, egoic thing? Then I'm repressing. I don't know. It just sounds like another should to me.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
But that would be saying that you're separate from God.
Well,
So the
what's important
isn't just about you. It's about God expressing through you.
Well, you and also it comes down to who are you? Am I just this separate being that's sitting here, or am I the one? Is this me, or is just this me? So when I'm thinking in terms of, it's not really a should. I truly believe that something that's coming from love is automatically something that you feel the desire for everyone to be blessed by it. That's just the way that I see it, and that doesn't mean that's the only way to see it. But it wouldn't be a should to me. It would actually to me be a joy. It's a joy to me to share what I share in here. And in my heart, I love the idea that it could possibly be beneficial to everyone. But I try not to do it from the perspective of I should be trying to do it in a way that benefits you.
Isn't that the
It's
same?
more like I am. It's like the sun saying I should shine today. But just in the sun shining and being what it truly is, it is benefiting all life. So in that sense, it would be of the ego if I was doing it from a perspective of I should do it. Mm-hmm. But if I'm just being, then I'm automatically including everyone because my being is connected to everyone. So it really comes down to, am I joined or am I separate? Are we one or are we not? And if we are, then quite naturally I would want your happiness as much as my happiness. I would want your joy as much as my joy. But I would also desire that it come through me being who I am, more so than me doing what I think I should do. But I think in the beginning, it might kind of seem like it's a should because you're trying to change your mind and you're trying to find yourself being much more open to being aware of other people other than just your own personal ego. So it's a difference from me doing something because I want to expand my love than me doing it because somebody says I should do that if I want to be a good person. See the difference? If I'm shoulding it because I should want to include you, then I'm kind of coming from a twisted egoic desire. But if I'm doing it from the perspective of you are me and whatever benefits me, I would like it to benefit what appears to be you. That's a different level.
Maybe the shoulds are the things that twist it. Maybe any desire that you apply all kinds of thinking shoulds or others would want or whatever to is how it gets twisted.
And also think of it all as neutral. Should is neither good nor bad. It's really the way you use it and the way you see it that determines the effect it's going to have on you. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't feel bad if I say that, if I want to should you, then that's cool. If I don't want to should you, then I'm using it to limit myself. If I'm saying to myself, you know what, I should go ahead and get that person to lift home. If that's something that's coming from me out of a sense of just desire to extend myself that way, then it's a different kind of an energy than if I don't want to do it, but I'm forcing myself to do it.
I was thinking of the painting example, and within the context of, do I expect the world to adapt to me, or do I adapt to what's around me? And it's yes, I could want the painting for my enjoyment, or if I paint it, I want it because it expresses what I want to express. That doesn't exclude anyone else. It's an expectation that others may or may not have the same desire that I do, but it doesn't exclude them. It doesn't. You see what I'm trying to get at?
But and also think about, we're living in a world where in most cases everyone's looking out for their own individual interest. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, we just be out of denial and just be honest about it. We already know what it's like to be in a world where everybody's just looking out for their own particular interests. And so if that's the kind of reality that you feel comfortable with, then that's okay to have that reality. And then if you're saying, okay, I'd like to see what kind of reality I'd experience if it was based on the idea of unity and inclusiveness and increasing my desire for peace and joy to go beyond just me, then that would be another relationship with others that I could also give myself the opportunity to see what is. So that's the cool part about it, is that you can choose it. That's what we've been told. You can choose to have it any way that you want to have it. You're not sinful or bad if you don't do anything that this book is saying, or any of these books. But what you are going to have is whatever the experience you're having in the world. It's going to be a reflection of your own attitudes and your own beliefs and your own thoughts. And so if you're completely satisfied with the world that you are manifesting for yourself on every level, then congratulations, and by all means keep on doing that. But if there's anything about your experience that you would like to see as different or evolved or more loving, then that's going to call for me looking within myself and seeing what are the thoughts and beliefs that I have that I might need to change in order to give myself a new experience. But that doesn't mean that I'm bad if I never choose to do that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not bad if I choose to do a painting that's just for my enjoyment. You know, but you could also go, okay, what would it be like if I also included everybody else's enjoyment in it? What would that be like? What if that was my attitude, that I also like everyone else to also benefit from that? But I'm not gonna let that stop me one way or another as far as my expression of that. But then I would be increasing my consciousness that says I am trying to be more inclusive in my energy, right? So I would begin to draw more people into my life that are also wanting to be more inclusive in their energy also. And what would that be like? You know, what would that be like if you were surrounded by people who saw your peace as being just as important as theirs? What would it be like to be in a world if someone saw your eating as just as beautiful as their being able to eat? Or they're having a roof over their head just as awesome as you having one over yours. So that's what we're supposed to do. Just ask ourselves these questions. Put that energy out there and go, what if? What would that be like? What would that be like what would it be like to be in a relationship where I wasn't afraid when it came to that person didn't have any fear of me? What would it be like for me to want to be as interested in their point of view and their desires, and how could I support that as much as they would be about me? So, because that's what this is. This is a great grand experiment in different ways of creating and expressing ourselves. So why be rigid about any one particular way of doing anything? So what Spirit is saying to us is that the basic truth is there are only two things we're acting out of, and that's love or fear. And so it's really daily me making up my mind whether I want to come out of the energy of love or whether I want to come out of the energy of fear. Do I want to come out of the energy of unity and oneness, or do I want to come out of the energy of separation? But we already know what it's like when we believe we're completely separate. We already know what it's like to feel like we're a victim of things that happen to us that we have nothing to do with. We already know what it's like to believe that we are temporary beings that are here just for a little while. We've already experienced that. So what would it be like to have another premise that we're acting from? What would happen? What would it be like that? So there aren't any wrong answers, is what I'm saying. You know, however you choose to do it is great. You know, but wouldn't it be nice to ask yourself every now and then, what would it be like if I did it like this? And so the purpose of the lesson tonight, as I see it, is that Spirit is trying to really show us the way to look at desire in such a way that it doesn't limit us in any way.
I really like her example of painting because it makes me think of how many paintings I have not painted. Because they, may have seemed to be all about me, or, not for the benefit of others, or instead of just seeing it as purely a self-expression coming through me, regardless of, I guess, a joy practice. For me to just start painting right now without even knowing how to paint
Mm-hmm.
will really help out my right brain,
Mm-hmm.
which needs help
Mhm.
if I'm gonna find my purpose.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, paint. Go ahead and start painting.
Exactly.
Just go ahead and start painting. Yeah.
I really like the fear and love way of looking at it, because what I thought was like, okay, so I just started painting again, or I just did one,
Mm-hmm.
really excited because
Mhm.
I was scared. Went to school for art, but like scared, just can't, like, oh, it's white, like I don't know what to do with it, And I did it, and I'm just like, I'm on a roll, I'm excited,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of question. Of course, I want people to like it, I'm doing it for me and everything like that, but every choice that I'm making is like what's gonna really make this like work, and not just for me, but like it's gonna be received well, like you desire to teach this, and if
Mhm.
nobody showed up, you might reassess,
Mhm.
like what you're teaching so that you could reach people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, from what angle maybe am I coming at it? Like in those moments where I'm looking at it, like, oh, will they like it? That's fear,
That's
or
Right.
like, I hope that someone likes it as much as I like it.
Mm-hmm.
But your
And that's
happiness
that.
doesn't depend upon validation from anything outside of yourself.
My what's the first word again?
Your happiness
My happiness.
Yeah.
Oh,
Your
that would be
gratification
nice
with
to-
what you've
right,
done
to embody
doesn't
that.
depend on anything outside of you.
Mm.
I've
The
tried
optimum, the optimum for me would be, it would be absolutely wonderful and great if everybody else really enjoyed it and got joy out of it. And guess what? It would be absolutely wonderful and great if no one did either, because I feel good about it, and it's bringing joy to me. You see what I'm saying? So the optimum to me always is, wow, it's great if you already love this class that I'm doing, but I'm not going to see myself as being in the best because you don't. It doesn't necessarily mean I did anything wrong. It's this is the way I choose to express myself. This is what's bringing me joy in this moment. So I've always had a contingency plan. If I come here to teach a class and no one shows up, I know exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm still gonna do the class. I'm still gonna sit down. I'm gonna do the class. I'm still gonna record it. I'm still gonna do everything I would do if someone came, and I would probably be even less inhibited. So it's even a possibility that I'd express myself in ways that I would never express myself, because I would have to look at your faces. Right. You know what I'm saying? So in a way, there's a way to look at, when I say look at your faces, it's like if when you're teaching, you're looking at faces. And when you're looking at faces, you're seeing faces of joy, faces of boredom, faces of excitement, faces of anger, faces of, you're seeing, it's funny, you're saying the same thing, but you're literally watching
how people are responding.
as many different seeming reactions to what you're saying as there are people in the room. So then it boils down to giving what I want to receive. Because if I give what I want to receive, then I'm never losing, regardless of how anybody's seeing it. And to get to that point that we are doing stuff from that perception of, I'm going to give myself joy through this no matter what's happening on the outer, is the ultimate lesson that we all need to learn. Yeah.
So as you've been talking and everything, and I've been hearing everyone, there's been a high level of anxiety in me and discomfort, because like the first question I'm asking is like, where's the order? I need order here,
What do you mean order?
Like, and I don't know, and I may have misheard, but you were saying something that like, like my experience, or the way that I choose to live, and my experience is like okay, and it's okay, but then I'm like, if I'm really trying to do this, then there's got to be like, I don't know, there's got to be like an order, like like
the order is that everything that you're experiencing is coming from your desire and your consciousness, and that all your desires are innocent, and that you're not the victim of your experience, and that you can manifest what it is you really desire in your heart. And we're being given permission to do that without feeling guilty about it or fearful about it. That would be order to me. The order is using the universal laws that we're being given in order to allow ourselves to experience the peace that we say we want to experience. And that's the thing that's been interesting about teaching so many years, is that is that it seems like there's nothing more frightening than us being given permission to be okay about how we are, what we feel, and how we express ourselves. But that's the only thing that's been said. Like, if we were really thinking about it, the only thing that we've heard is that we've been constantly assured that we were loved, that we were valuable, that we were powerful, that we were creative, and how to not have your creativity blocked, and how you can have what it is that you desire without feeling guilty. But to me, that sounds like good news, you know. But you'll notice that there's a part of us that comes up that almost wants to oppose it, or feel uncomfortable about it, or feel fearful about it. That's the twisting the desire into an egoic pattern. That's what I was saying. Mm-hmm. The desire being twisted into the egoic pattern is us taking the desire and then somehow still feeling fear about the expression of it. And somehow or another we still trying to make ourselves wrong about it.
Totally Catholic.
And we totally we don't realize, I was just thinking about that the other day, we don't realize how much influence the beliefs that we got as children still hold over us, and we think we're beyond it. But they're still under there. That guilt, like you said, that Catholic guilt, or in my case, that Baptist guilt, you know, that some desires are wrong. Desire is wrong, you know, a passion is wrong, having it the way you want to is wrong, letting yourself feel your desire. That's what I was saying earlier. There are a lot of unconscious beliefs that we have that we're operating from still, that we don't know we're still operating from. Mm-hmm. And so that's what's called the shadow work. You know, you hear a lot of times people talk about, you know, people don't want to do the shadow work. They don't want to go beneath their conscious awareness and look at the hate, the fear, the grievances, the things that we feel that we're repressed and we're not acknowledged, the wounds that we allowed ourselves to have and to feel that are still running us at some level. Because the true self that's pure in its love is up under that layer of insane beliefs that we've given ourselves. So there's our conscious beliefs, right? And then we have our subconscious beliefs, and then we have our superconscious ideas that are under that. It's almost like digging for oil. And so to get down to those superconscious, incredible beliefs, I got to take a look at that insane stuff that I believe about myself that needs to be released and transformed. And that's the part that most people are afraid. That's when they bail. Because they're having to look, there's so much hate in the world. I don't understand why there's so much hate in the world. And then you start doing your shadow work and you go, damn, I hate everybody. I didn't even know I had that much anger still in me and toward women, toward my mama, toward my dad. You'll find out that anger that you're seeing outside of you is just a reflection of what's going on inside of you that you're in denial about, and you won't admit to yourself that it's there. So you keep drawing people in situations to you, say, look at this, 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 until you go, okay, I'm going to look at this. And then you look at it, and then you look at it through the eyes of truth, which is, I am loved, I am innocent, I am not these ideas and beliefs. These were ideas I learned and accepted for myself that I'm now no longer in this moment choosing to invest in anymore. And then you go on to the next level. Okay, I admit I have these feelings, and I want another way to look at it. Oh, there is another way to look at it. Oh, my desire is innocent. Oh, okay. I'm loved. Oh, all that stuff I told myself about not being okay is not true about me. But I'm not going to deny that I have these fearful thoughts and feelings. How do I know I have them? I see it. That's how I know I have it. Could it be that simple? Yeah, I see it. And I'm always seeing what's in my own mind. I couldn't even describe it if it wasn't in my own mind. How could I even call it fear unless I knew what fear was? From the definitions I have of fear in my own mind. How could I know what jealous, when you said jealous, you're jealous, how could I know what you were talking about unless I had jealous thoughts? So it's no way I can relate to any of you unless I have a corresponding thought or meaning in my mind. So I can't be different from what I'm looking at. I can't, what's in my mind can't be different from what I'm looking at. So that's the quickest way to get in touch with your deepest beliefs. Take a look at the people around you, take a look at your personal world, and you're looking at your conscious and subconscious mind. That's you're the one that's projecting the meaning on all of it. It's coming from you. You know, some people look at the news and they see the world going to hell in the handbasket. I look at the news and I see so much light coming in on the planet that is bringing up all the insanity that needs to be released in the world, and looks like we're crazier than ever before. But the truth is, there's so much light that everything is being released and purified and brought up. So, see, same thing, right? I look at it one way, you look at it another way. Now, which way? That way gives me more peace. To believe that there's some greater good happening that I might not understand. See what I'm saying? So my peace is ultimately coming from what? What I desire to see in the world. How I desire to see things. How I desire to see you.
And at his point of order, it's like Fantasy Island. I don't know if people are too old or young for that show. Where everyone's fantasy lines up with somebody else's fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
So, 2 million people drove home safely today, but there were 10 car wrecks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the one who wanted to get slammed into, there was one that wanted to get slammed into, and there was one that wanted to slam. Neither one would admit that consciously. But unconsciously, down at that super unconscious level you're talking about, that's the violence the level that's going on that we're aware of. But it's not random. It's not.
Chance plays no part in this whole thing.
Yeah. So that's the order.
Yeah. There's no
free
chance.
will is fully intact. It's just not conscious.
I love how the Course Miracles teaches that free will just means you're free to. It just basically means you're free to learn as much as you want to learn at any given time. But free will doesn't mean you can establish the curriculum. I always think about that. It's like if I want to learn how to drive a car, there's certain rules to driving a car that I'm going to have to learn. Period. If I want to drive a car, so the curriculum I don't have any free will over, right? But what I do have free will about is I can decide whether I want to start learning to drive a car this evening, or whether I want to spend an hour practicing, or whether I want to spend 15 minutes. That's my free will. But if I want to drive a car, then there are certain things I'm gonna have to do to drive a car. And so the Course and the Truth teachings are taking that to me to a greater level, saying there are rules for love. There are things, if you really want peace, there are ways you're going to have to approach life, approach yourself, the way you look at things to give yourself peace. Now, how much time you want to devote to learning what that is, that's your free will. But the thing you're going to have to learn is going to be basically the same thing, which is what? Don't friggin' attack each other. If you want to have friggin' peace, you can't do it through attacking each other. Now you come to your own conclusions about how you end up doing that, and you can take as much time as you want to learn that. But basically, if you want peace, you can't attack each other.
And have a nice day.
Yeah, I mean it's I can't attack you and say I love you. That's not a quality of love. Is that I'm trying to hurt you and attack you. So I need to let go of whatever it is that makes me want to do that. And I need to learn how to do that. And my free will is how much time do I want to devote to that. Because a teacher is a learner. Just being in this position that I put myself in to learn, I feel like I'm so blessed because I get a chance to meet with, communicate with, share with so many people. And I've had a chance to work with so many people over the years. And you can't do that without learning a lot about yourself. And you certainly can't do that without seeing a lot of patterns. Mm-hmm. So you get a chance to see what are the characteristics of people who seem to pretty much be peaceful and loving and have their act together and really seem to be enjoying their experience. And then what do you notice are the characteristics of people who seem to be pretty much unhappy a lot and up and down and never give themselves any joy? And you start to see very definite attitudinal things about them. Mm-hmm. I can almost tell when I'm talking to somebody, in a sense, you're like, who's going to take it and run with it and who's not, and it always depends on how much the person loves themselves and how much they think they need to suffer or don't suffer. Because if I'm mad at you, I'm hurting. I'm the one that's feeling it. So it's really I'm not forgiving so much for you as I'm trying to let myself off the hook too, because I'm the one that's got to feel that crappy feeling that I'm having from all the grievances I got toward you. So when I want to feel better is when I forgive you. So it really wasn't about you in the first place. It was about me wanting to punish myself through having those feelings. And so once you begin to realize that, you go, whoa, maybe I want to let this go. Maybe I should have that desire to release this. So let's see what else it's saying that brings up everything in us. Good. Oh, great. This is great. That means you're hearing it. If it wasn't a reaction, it would mean you weren't hearing, you weren't listening. So that's great. So I don't mind it. And believe me, I wouldn't be in front of the class if I felt like everybody needed to agree with me. It wouldn't be no fun. You have learned, therefore, to fear desire, because that fear is the effect of fearing yourself. I'm going to go back. There is always the possibility that desire will be twisted to meet the needs of the egoic mind within you. But rest assured, if it does, who has done it? You. Always within you, you have known that desire is good, but you have suppressed desire. Those times when desire came forth and you let it become twisted into serving the goals of fear, the ego, you always knew perfectly well what you were doing. You were the decision maker. You have learned, therefore, to fear desire, because that fear is the effect of fearing yourself. And this fearing yourself is what cripples you. That is what cuts off the creative flow. So what cuts off the creative flow is fearing myself. That is what leads to everything your world knows as the multitude of psychological diseases. It's an unwillingness to trust oneself, an unwillingness to love oneself, and the belief that the desires that move up through your beingness are something evil and dark. So we're being told that psychological problems come from an unwillingness to trust yourself, an unwillingness to love yourself, and to believe that you can have desires that are evil or coming from a dark place, that that's really what's within you. And he's just saying, no, what you call evil is ignorance and fear. That's all it is. It's just ignorance and fear. It was ignorance that goes into a newspaper office and shoots 12 people. That's ignorance and fear, not evil. And if you really want to get your mind blown, there is nothing that ever happens to anyone at any level that at some level they themselves were not a collaborator with that experience. But you have to be at another level of consciousness to even play with that one. So I wouldn't be saying that to my aunt Geneva, okay? Because that simply just creates a lot of argument and upset and fear. But I personally believe that when I leave this planet through what's called death, it'll be when my soul decides, even if it looked like someone shot me in a robbery. That's my belief. Nobody else has to believe that. I will not see myself as a victim, if at all possible, under any circumstances. And I found that even playing with that idea cut the drama level in my life down 90%. That's the weird part about it. That's the one thought that people fight the most, which is that they're the creators of everything. But that's when I personally saw the drama and the attack just go out of my life. Was when I kept saying to myself, okay, whatever's happening, I'm the one I'm asking for. I asked for that. Okay, you gave me the finger. I asked for that. You gave me something beautiful. I asked for that. I asked for it all. It's all as a result of my consciousness. And when I started saying that, then crappy people left my life. Crappy situations stopped happening like they did before. Income flowed more whenever I needed it. Whatever came up in my life, I drew loving people. And I said, wow, that's deep. The more I admit to myself that I'm the one that's the creator of everything that happens to me, the less my world presents me with things to force me to come to that realization. And then I would watch the people who fought that idea continually go through more and more drama and more challenges in their life. The ones that go, hey, that couldn't be true. I didn't have nothing to do with that. That happened to me, but that didn't have nothing to do with me. Okay. That you ordered it back around again. So that you can, at some point, go within, see what's within your own consciousness. That's creating it so you can let it go. But if I go ahead and say it is my own consciousness, and my consciousness might need to be healed, then there's no need for me to keep having that come up in my face, because I've agreed that it's something I need to deal with myself. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah. I don't need you to keep putting it up in my face if I'm willing to admit that it's something I need to look at. But if I'm refusing to look at it, it's going to keep coming back around over and over again. Like in my personal special relationships, after a while, especially many years ago, I've been in this for a while, all I had to do was basically just change the name of whoever I was dating. But I was dating the same woman. She was just changing names and bodies. That's what I've always said. I've only had one woman in my whole life. She just changed bodies. And she just changed names. And as I evolved and changed, she evolves and changes. But it's just one. How do I know that? Because eventually I was dealing with the same pattern that I need to take a look at. With no matter who it was. After a certain period of time, maybe 6 months, maybe a year, I was dealing with my Earl issues. So who was the common denominator? Me. And I still look at it that way. And so the feminine in my life has evolved tremendously. Could I be evolving? Just put it out there. So you think that if only you could stamp them out of your being, right? You could remain in control, right? And everybody would like you because you would conform to the smallness and the littleness that is worshipped in human consciousness. So human consciousness worships smallness and littleness. And if a person even begins to say they're going to come out of their greater self, you're called arrogant, vain, and egotistical. You know, I watch American Idol sometimes, and the person who comes in there and goes, I'm going to be the best person that you've ever seen do this. I can watch the judges automatically become much more critical in their assessment of it because they said that they were really, really good. So immediately they really had a higher standard that they had to come from. But the person who comes in and seems more humble and doesn't really talk about how great he is, then I find that they tend to get more of the benefit of the doubt. So I'm not saying don't be confident, but I'm just saying that we're in a world that people react to people who are confident a lot of times as if they're vain and as if they're arrogant. Like if I came in and said, I'm the best way of mastery teacher you guys ever see. Would you go, yay, I'm glad to be around a person with that much confidence? Or would you be honest enough to admit that a part of you go, man, he really got an ego. He must really think he's a good teacher. And you immediately become much more critical and judgmental of what I say and what I do. So I'm looking forward to creating a space in myself that when I see other people displaying confidence, I will be glad they're doing that, and then I will acknowledge that instead of look at it like, oh, that person is just too into themselves. See, that's a reflection of my insecurity. Interesting, because I don't think you all have competition. I don't believe any of us have competition. Because there's nobody else exactly like you. So where's your competition? I'll never meet another any of you. So where's your competition? There's no one else that expresses the uniqueness of God like you do. So you don't have to worry about being replaceable. You're irreplaceable. I don't know. Those kind of thoughts feel better than the other kind. So it says, understand well the next axiom we give to you. The only relationship that holds any value at all is your relationship with God. What does that mean? Your creative source. So you could say the only relationship that holds any value at all is your relationship with your creative source. That's the only relationship that you can count on, is your relationship to your creative source. I learned that one as a teacher, and especially being a full-time teacher. The people constantly change. The people who come to my classes constantly change. They change all the time. I can count on it. That's the way it is. That's the way it's supposed to do. But there's been something underlying it that's always provided for me enough to keep on doing what I'm doing. So my relationship with the creative source and my gratitude to you is very important. You got to be grateful to the channels that are willing to be the channels, but also I mustn't ever forget that all things I have come only from God. There's not nothing I have that doesn't come from the creative source. Because the creative source will always be with me, people won't. So that's why that's the most important. Like I said, the depth of your ocean. So I'm always trying to increase the connection to the creative source. I put it this way: increase my awareness of my connection to the creative source. The connection is there. It's just a matter of, are you aware of it? Are you not aware of it? Right? So right away the mind says, but what about my mate? What about my parents? What about my children? What about the President of the United States? What about the Postmaster? You will come up with a million examples of relationships that surely have great importance, not just your relationship with your source. The only one that holds value in your relationship with God, the only one that holds value is your relationship with God. The only relationship that holds value is your relationship with your creative source. That's the only relationship that holds value. My specialist doesn't want to hear that. My desire to be special doesn't want to hear that. My need to have you think I'm the most important thing in your life doesn't want to hear this at all. Because my specialness wants to be number one, the most important, and the only one that gets your attention more than anybody else. You can give other people attention, but I must be the most important one. My specialness wants to be the primary relationship that you have. That's what my specialness wants. That's why I get jealous. That's why I get insecure, and because I want to be the most special. So I don't want to hear that your relationship with God is actually more important than your relationship with me. There's a part of my mind that wants to be the most special. And I'm willing to admit that so that I don't have to go through the pain of specialness. So I'm working on it. I don't know about you. I'm working on it. Then it says, the only relationship that holds value is your relationship with your source. For when that is in alignment, all of your creations, your choices for relationships, and how you will be within your relationships will flow effortlessly from that alignment. Boom! That's the doggone truth. The ones that you make that your most important relationship, you'll start having the kind of personal relationships that you want, the kind of financial situations that give you peace, the way a job that you give yourself peace in. Everything will come out of that alignment with your creative source. Wow. I like that. That's a good deal. You know, seek ye first the kingdom of God and everything else will be added to you, right? So don't try to create a rose by starting with the petals. Think about that again. Don't try to create a rose by starting with the petals, but nourish the roots and the flower will blossom. So the creative source is the root. The flower, which is the various relationships that you have in your life, they will blossom if you focus on the root. Most people want to focus on the petals and say, when I get the petals taken care of, then I will focus on the root. I'll focus on my spiritual life after I get my material life handled. That's the way most people do it. I'm going to study and meditate once I get all my bills paid and the job I want and all that. Then I'll take some time to focus on my relationship to source. That's the same as saying, I'm going to focus on the petals, but I'm never going to focus on watering the roots. So, I thank you, Holy Spirit, for letting me know that. Okay, any questions, any comments about that aspect of what we just heard? What about the idea that the only relationship that has value is the relationship you have with Source? How many of you is your relationship to God or Source truly the most valuable thing to you?
I had that very thought today when I was painting. That's what's been missing for a while. That I might not have attacked as much had I been engaged like that, and so satisfied with myself on that level of connection to this thing I love and this expression.
That's I can totally relate to what you're saying. You know, the thing that I admire about the fundamentalist Christians and even the Muslims is, even if they have seen some of them can seem to have a perception of God that's very fearful and punishing, I still have to give them kudos for their belief in God. How important it is to them, how much they talk about it, how much they want to take God in everything they do. What I sometimes see within the New Thought and New Age community is just the opposite, where many times it'll be all about me getting information, all about me changing myself, but not consciously working on a relationship with God. Almost so, not only that, resent you mentioning it. You'd be amazed at how many people over the years that I've shared with that get bent out of shape when you mention God or mention a higher power or getting in touch with a higher power or learning how, because they got wounded in religious beliefs coming up that were very fearful. And so they threw the baby out with the bathwater, as my mother would say. You know, they threw out the whole idea of God because they learned an idea of God that was fearful. And so they're basically atheists, which is a person who believes that they're alone and on their own. And they've got to do it all and figure it all out by themselves. And then you see that as being conscious. Like the more I can handle by myself, the more conscious I am. But the more conscious you are, the more you realize you're not by yourself. It's just the opposite. The more conscious you become, the more you know you're connected and you're joined to something greater than your own little personal ego. So it's not up to you to figure out everything, because you're not the one who created you to begin with.
I liked your answer one time. You said, I don't love you. I want to learn how to love you. And that's, to me, where I'm at with my higher power.
Yeah.
That's, me showing up in this room
Yeah.
is a symbolic act of my willingness to join with God.
That's right. That's exactly where I'm at. I'm willing to go. I want to know that connection at a conscious level, and I want to let go of every block to me knowing that connection. I'm not claiming that I have 100% awareness of that connection, but at least I'm telling you I desire to know that connection, and I desire to do what's necessary to know that connection. It's almost like you would get as much benefit from wanting to be loving as you would with being actually loving. That's another weird thing you'll find. If you go, I want to love you in a relationship, my desire is to love you truly, you will see almost as much peace, if not as much peace in that relationship as if you showed up able to totally love. Because your desire to be loving is going to dictate your actions too. So it's going to make you act in a different way than if you didn't even have the conscious desire to love. That's why if I'm doing couples counseling, the first thing I ask them is, do you want to join or do you want to separate? Let's get that straight. Are you all here because you really want to join? Or do you just already, both of y'all, through with it and you done? But you just now you want to go through the motions of saying you tried to save the relationship. Because if you truly want to join in peace, you will. There's no way you won't if y'all both want to. And because, like I've said in the classes before, I've never seen some couples more depressed than when I showed them ways to stay together. I swear to God. Because they really didn't want to be together anymore. And so when I saw, well, you could do this and you could look at it this way and you could work it out here and this was that you think they'd be, oh great, because I love you, baby. I really want what's going wrong between us to be healed. Oh, I'm so glad he shared that. It'd be so the next time you're having any kind of a situation with somebody and it looks like it's a disagreement or misunderstanding or misperception, at the very beginning pose that question. Would you like to heal with me? Would you like us to have peace together? Would you like us to join or not? And if you really don't want to, then let's go from there. That'll still be the most honest, peaceful way that we could proceed. Okay, because you don't have to stick with any one person and you don't have to let them go either. Because the lesson's going to come back. Sometimes people go, well, if I want to learn the lesson, I just want to stick with you, even, because if I just go to somebody else, I'm going to still have to learn the same lesson. Yeah, but sometimes you want a fresh blackboard, you know what I'm saying, to write your novel on. It doesn't mean that you got to stay with a person that you got a ton of grievances against. It'll take you 1,000 years to get past because you got to learn that lesson. Why not learn that lesson with someone you want to learn it with now?
What a concept.
That's another one that brings up a lot of resistance. I'm telling you, I've done workshops and I've seen people get so upset when I say it's okay to choose out of it. Even though they can be totally miserable. But if I say, you're innocent if you choose to choose out of that, and they get totally upset with me. Well, you're not committed. What about commitment? And all that? What are you committed to? Are you committed to joy or pain? That's the commitment. Are you committed to love or fear? Are you committed to your happiness or your misery? That's the commitment. If I'm committed to misery, I swear I attract people who are challenging for me. I do. If I'm committed to joy, then I attract people to me that are joyful for me to be around. And sometimes it's the same person, depending on how I want to feel. They'll be the person I go, oh my God. You're so damn thrilling to be with. And then another time I'd be going, you're hell. You're just big as hell I could have ever given. Oh, I love you. The best thing they ever have. Oh, you're hell. You're the best. The same person. Depending on what I want to experience out of them based on how I'm feeling about myself in a given time. Yeah.
So when you were asking about, is my relationship with God, the most important one, for me, I gotta answer that. I'm like conflicted because I'm still trying to sort out who God is, because I'm having these new ideas of God being all loving and everything, but then I still have the old ideas of the puritanical God. So then I'm like, well, so then if I give myself fully to God, then, you know, part of me is like, am I gonna have to live a puritanical, like, you know, like joyless life?
Then that means that you're not believing what you're studying, because what you're studying is clearly defined. The God of love is not being one that was judgmental, punishing, saying that you can't have any joy, you got to live a puritanical life. So that means that you haven't replaced your old set of beliefs with the new ones. And so all that means is I now use these ideas as my interpretation of my experience. That's all that means. Like I say, I'm going to live the truth that I say means something to me now. Let's say the Course in Miracles and the Way of Mastery is my spiritual path. Okay, then that means from this right now, if I'm going to make any decisions about what I think God's will is for me, then I'm going to align that with what I say my spiritual path is. And my spiritual path says God is love. It's not a person. It's this infinite energy of love that doesn't condemn me, doesn't punish me, corrects me, lovingly guides me. Right? So if that's my God, right, then the whole idea that I'm being asked to be puritanical or to not feel good about my desires means I'm not listening to what I'm being told. In other words, belief means to side with. It doesn't mean that it has to be credulous or credible. When you say you believe something, you're saying, I am willing to side with that idea. I'm willing to join with that idea. Just like when I was a kid, whose side you on? That's what we used to say. Are you on my side? That's what this means when it says believe. It's saying, I want you to go are you willing to go into alignment that God's will for you is your perfect happiness? Then that's what believing in God at that level would mean. I'm joining with that idea. I'm not opposing that idea. And whatever part of me would try to tell me something to make me believe I'm unworthy, by definition, that couldn't be the voice for God talking to me. Because the voice for God is the voice for love. For the voice. You see what I mean? I've got to make some, like you said, order. I've got to make some decisions now. I got to draw a line in the sand spiritually and say, I will only accept, at this point in time, this perception to move forward in my experience. Knowing that I can always change my mind at any given time. But right now, I'm saying God is love and not fear. And so anything that's about the fear, I'm saying that's not true for me. And then if I desire that, we've been told what? If I desire it, I'm going to allow it, I'm going to bring it into manifestation. So the conflict that you're going through comes from not making an undivided decision. That's what all conflict is. It's just not making up your mind. You know. So I would invite you to make up your mind about what you consider to be the core characteristic of your Creator. Because you just accepted someone else's idea of what it was, right? Mm-hmm. And so now you can choose for yourself. That's what I forget too, that I'm an adult now. No matter what I was taught as a child, I no longer have to side with that anymore. Period. I'm free to choose once again. Yeah. So I hope we all choose once again for our joy. So could we acknowledge us for hanging out for this period of time tonight? Whoa, my God. Okay, we're going to do the financial expression of appreciation. I appreciate you sharing. If your heart so moves you to do that, I appreciate that as a full-time teacher of this stuff. And we are sustained by the love of God. We are sustained by the love of that which created us. Those of you who are watching this class online, if you'd like to make a financial expression of appreciation, you can go to my website, earlpurdy.com. Also, go to my website and sign up for my contact list so that you can get email links to these classes when I post them online, so you can watch this class again and review it. Go to my website. And if you want to do a one-on-one personal session with me so that we can take the truth and astrology and numerology that I know and bring it to your situation and circumstance for healing and insight, go to my website, and it explains everything about how you can get in touch with me, and we can do that. So there are no original problems. There are no original problems. There's nothing that you can want to know the answer to that there isn't an answer for you. Whether you're ready to accept it right now, that's a whole nother issue. but there's nothing we can ask that the universe can't answer immediately. But what takes a long time sometimes is our willingness to do it or to go into agreement with it. And then people say, well, there's no answer to my problem. Yeah, there is an answer, but you may not be ready to accept it and do it right now. So before we complete, would anybody in here care to answer this question? One thing I've heard tonight that I'd like to remember is
that simply desiring oneness with God, my will being aligned with His will, her will, is as beneficial as actually having that alignment.
Absolutely.
And that will being, for me, to be happy, joyous, and free.
Exactly. That's why I love that thing. I always tell people, either I love you or I want to love you. Those are only two emotions that I have. Either I love you or I really want to. But love is at the center of both of those.
Right.
So I'm increasing my consciousness of love. Absolutely. Anybody else? One thing I heard tonight that I really want to remember is
desire is innocent.
That's a biggie. That I don't have any guilty desires. That the fact that I have a desire does not make me bad, no matter what that desire is. But it's up to me to act on it or not act on it. But I don't have to pretend I don't have it. Good.
That's similar to what I was thinking, which was that if I fear desire because I fear myself, well, that's because I've chosen to accept fear-based teachings of the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Say that again. It's because I chose to do what?
To accept fear-based teachings of the world.
Exactly. Exactly. That's the most liberating moment of all on your spiritual path to me, is when you realize, oh, I'm just acting on old ideas and learnings I was taught. And I've learned they aren't true. So I don't have to use that anymore as the criterion for me to judge anything about my life. I can choose to use a different set of rules now, no matter how I was brought up. Okay. Anybody else? One thing I heard tonight. Yeah.
It was a side note, but never a victim.
Never a victim.
Never,
yeah. Yeah, that's a biggie.
Yeah.
That's the biggest
I try to take responsibility, but I think that will kind of like recognize quickly the situations where I need to remember my responsibility.
Yeah.
It coming from me.
Yes.
Yeah. I like it a lot.
And if you can say, if you're a person that you're not at the point that you can willing to say, I create my experience and everything, then you can always say, I'm creating how I experience my experience. And that's a good place to start. You're not all the way up to, no matter what happens to me, I'm the one that asked for it at some level. I feel comfortable with that now. It was a time I didn't feel comfortable with that. So sometimes, in the beginning, the best a person can do is say, I'm the one that's giving it all the meaning that it has for me. That I'm the one that's making myself feel this way about what's going on. Yeah. So start there. That's a good one. Anybody else?
That I have the power to choose.
That's freedom. And I love knowing there's not but two things I'm choosing between: what's real and what's not, and what's love and what's fear. It's just taking a variety of forms, but I'm just choosing two things all the time, no matter what. Yeah, yeah. Anybody else?
That healing requires the willingness to feel desire.
Healing requires the willingness to feel desire, not to judge your desire. It's so much fun to think what you want to think and to feel what you want to feel. Just try it sometimes. You find yourself censoring your thoughts based on the old things you were taught, that you won't even allow yourself to think certain things. And the course teaches that when you don't believe you can think what you want to think, then it weakens your belief in the power of your own thought. So every time you don't think something that you really want to think, you're actually making yourself believe your thoughts are impotent. So you don't want to do that. You want your thoughts to be able to get up, right? Okay. Absolutely. So desire is everything. I want you to have what you desire. You incredibly beautiful beings. I'm going to do the Course in Miracles on Sunday, and may the Course be with you. I appreciate y'all for coming. Let's give it up to us with a little bit more energy and enthusiasm. All right. I love you. Thanks for coming out tonight. And that's all, folks. And hugs all that.